"Answer and I'll let you go," Mrs. Greaser said, holding the young student by the hood of his coat. The kid is clearly uncomfortable, having just said something about her and another teacher, Mr. Parke. The kids were always making up rumors about the two of them, but nothing was going on. At least that's what she tries to tell herself. She's married, after all, and deep down she loved Tim, right? "I swear I didn't say anything, Mrs. Greaser. I'm sorry," the kid sputters. Mrs. Greaser releases his hood, and the student runs off to the lunchroom. Meredith goes back to her classroom and shuts the door. Sitting behind her desk, she quickly opens up the school's email system and sends Brent a line. "Meet me in the deep storage room. M." She presses send, locks her screen, and heads for the meeting spot. A little-known room only accessed through the Northwestern Middle School library, the deep storage room was where the district stored old desks and other furniture. Meredith briskly walks the short distance from her 7th grade math classroom to the library a few hundred feet down the hall, passing Mrs. Carey's classroom and, unfortunately, getting a wave from Mr. Borton. She had hoped no one would see her, but her cover's blown. She ducks into the library, waves to Nancy, the librarian, and opens the first door on the left-hand side. Most students would think, by looking at the little room Meredith had entered, that it was just a small office where Miss Bartley could heat up her coffee, check her emails, and bitch about the students. But it was actually connected to a long concrete hallway that led to a cold, cavernous garage. The district parked their famous blue mini school bus that had a snowplow attached to the front here and stored a massive mound of sidewalk salt. Meredith passes the snowplow bus and enters another door, the deep storage room. She flips on a nearby light switch and the lights slowly flicker to life. The room is covered in cobwebs and dust, even though the drama department sometimes uses furniture from the room for their productions. This has always been a great hiding place for her and Brent, and she's sure that they'll enjoy the same confidence they've always had here. It didn't matter that the back of the deep storage room had a line of windows that looked out onto a little courtyard because, Meredith thinks, no one has ever seen them before, so they wouldn't today. She doesn't consider that across the courtyard was Mrs. Leanne Ellsworth's classroom, which also has a wall of windows overlooking the small field. 15 minutes after Meredith sent the email, Brent finally storms into the storage room. "I've been dying to see you," he says as he crosses the room in a few quick strides and kisses Meredith up and down her neck. Meredith feels the cleft of his chin rubbing against the dimple in her chubby cheek and a fire burning in her pants. Hang on," Meredith begs as she squirms away from Brent. "That's not why I sent you the message." "What's going on then? Is everything okay?" Brent questions, suddenly nervous. I don't know, Brent. I'm freaking out. I heard a kid talking about us in the hall. He's not even in 7th or 8th grade. I've never seen him. How does he even know about us?" Meredith bursts. Brent puts his arm around her shoulders and tries to calm her down by blowing in her face and alternately shushing her gently. As she starts to relax, he begins to hum and rock her back and forth. She slumps into him, giving herself over to him and truly feeling at peace. "Everything's going to be okay, Meredith, I promise. You know how kids are. Besides, the adults are the only one we should care about, and they're clueless." "We're fine, baby," Brent consoles her. Meredith looks at him as he wipes a tear from her cheek. "You mean the world to me, Brent. I don't know what I would do without you," she says as she leans in and kisses him. He kisses her back, and they start to make out. Buddy Ball hates working for other people. It never happens that often, but when it does, it really gets under his skin. He especially doesn't like when he has to cover for someone in a building he isn't familiar with. He is a high school janitor, after all. This was the middle school. It was totally beneath him. Everyone knows there's a hierarchy in the janitorial world, and high school was the last stop before community college, and that is where the real money was. This middle school nonsense was for Rick Massey, not Buddy Ball, but Rick was busy dealing with his damn daughter Kaylee, who was out getting her tonsils removed. Not that that was Buddy Ball's problem, but here we are. Buddy Ball pushes his trash can through the 8th grade wing of the middle school and enters the science room, Mrs. Ellsworth's room to be specific. He gathers up the trash while whistling Jolene by Dolly Parton. As he looks around the classroom, he confirms what he already suspected. Rick Massey isn't a very good janitor. There's a reason he's not playing in the big leagues up at the high school. The floors need waxed, the desks need a good spit shine, and above all, the windows needed cleaning. Buddy didn't have most of the supplies he would need to do all of that on his cart. Of course, Massey was never prepared for anything. And the janitorial closet is all the way by the choir room in the damn near center of the building. And Buddy knows he's in no shape to be walking all the way back there for some damn floor wax. He'd have to settle for only cleaning the window and blaming the rest on Rick. He grabs the bottle of generic window cleaning solution off of the cart and a roll of paper towels. Covering the windows with a good layer of the spray, he sets out on getting them sparkling clean. It's not until he reaches the 3rd or 4th window that he notices something moving across the way. He doesn't really think anything about it. It's a school full of people after all, so Buddy continues scrubbing at the windows. Working down the row, Buddy starts to pay attention to the motion in the other room. He's intrigued and distracted for a number of reasons, but the main reason is because Buddy thinks he's just seen boobies. He takes out his cell phone, zooms in, and takes a photo to confirm that, yeah, he has seen a pair of boobies, and a whole lot more. Meredith closes the door, waves to Nancy, and exits the library. She's making Brent wait this time so that she can get to the restroom as quickly as possible to pee out his deposit. Nearing the end of the hallway, she turns to the right, passing all the other classrooms. She walks by Gretchen's classroom and hears her students reciting a pledge to be confident and respectful. Meredith never understood that kind of teaching. Maybe it was different with the language arts, but in math, it was just simple. They either got the answer right or they got the answer wrong. Meredith could simply use a calculator to fill out the answer key, and then she was golden. She didn't need her students to recite some bullshit pledge. Meredith rounds the double corner and pauses to fix her hair in the floor-length mirror that hangs on the wall next to the water fountain. She passes the first of 2 entrances to the gymnasium and enters the main office. Pam Clarkson sits behind the front desk. She and Meredith have worked together for years, but never really had any sort of relationship beyond Pam calling over the intercom for Mrs. Greaser to send students to the office they'll be leaving for the day. Pam smiles and raises her eyebrows as if to say, "Can I help you?" And Meredith tilts her head to the left to indicate, "I'm just going to the employee bathroom." Pam nods and returns to reading a romance novel as Meredith crosses the threshold into the guidance section of the office, where Gail Lang's office, the conference room, and the employee restroom were. Meredith slams the door shut, locks it, and sits down on the toilet after wiping it off with a few pieces of toilet paper. You can never be too sure which teacher has just used this bathroom, and if it was Kelly Stoll's, there's no telling how disgusting and germ-infested the seat may be. She squeezes out a few drops of pee and all of Brent's seed while she pulls out her phone and shoots off a text to her husband. "So tired. Got to stay late for meeting. Shoot me now." She waits as he types back, "Kay, you bring home pizza, please." This is the kind of shit that pisses Meredith off. Tim knows goddamn good and well that no one delivers to Penny Pike, and it's still years before Fence Dairy will serve pizza, so it's not like she can just go there. That means that she will either have to drive all the way to Bechtel Avenue to get to the nearest chain, or pay the price and get a Crown Mini Mart pizza. Meredith thinks for a few seconds before sending the reply, "No. Meeting will keep me late. Got to grade 2. She puts her phone on Do Not Disturb, puts it in her pants pocket, and finishes her bathroom business. As she exits and heads back through the office, she passes by a janitor she hasn't seen before. She smiles politely as he gives her a bizarre, wide-eyed look. She writes it off as first day of work jitters and returns to her classroom to grade papers until her next class at 1:15. She is so ready for this day to be over. "I think I should talk to the principal," Buddy says to the beautiful silver-haired minx behind the counter. "Sure. Her office is right there to the right," she says, pointing to Buddy's right. Buddy thanks her and steps onto the small patch of carpet that separates the assistant principal and principal offices. Buddy knocks a few times on the frame of the principal's door. She's a small blonde woman in her late 40s, early 50s. Buddy saw her picture in the district's newsletter when she'd been hired as the middle school principal after years of difficulty fulfilling the position, but he's never met her and doesn't know her name. "Come in," she says, not looking up from her writing. Buddy steps into her office and shuts the door. "Can I help you?" she asks. I saw something, ma'am," he says, not really sure how to go about this. "Please, call me Cheryl. I'm Cheryl Leedy. Nice to meet you," she says as she extends her hand for Buddy. "Buddy Ball, I'm the high school janitor. I'm filling in for Rick today." "I see. So, what did you see, Buddy?" Cheryl asks, leaning back in her seat. "Well, you see, Cheryl, it's a bit... I think maybe I should just show you," Buddy says as he unlocks his phone and places it on Mrs. Leedy's desk. Cheryl opens the top drawer of her desk and gets out her reading glasses. She picks up Buddy's phone and studies the photo. Her mouth opens as she squints and focuses on the image, and Buddy realizes that Mrs. Leedy has braces at such an old age. He thinks she must feel really insecure about that, working with a bunch of kids, but she seems really nice and respectable, and Buddy was proud that the district, at the time, had 3 female principals: Cindy Pearson in the elementary, Cheryl Leedy in the middle school, and Lori Swafford in the high school. They had not yet had a female superintendent, though Buddy had thought Lori would be a good candidate after Superintendent Tony Orr stepped down to accept a higher-paying superintendent position, a move which stunned the community as Orr had bragged about going to Northwestern K through 12 as a reason to hire him in the first place. Cheryl Leedy removes her glasses and hands the phone back to Buddy. "Mr. Ball, I appreciate you bringing this to my attention, but I think you should delete the photo and pretend as if nothing ever happened, okay? Thanks, great," she says as she returns to writing. Not satisfied, Buddy sputters. What? What do you mean? I've got a photo of 2 of your teachers having sex in the supply room, like full-on pornographic proof of 2 teachers in the actual act of sex right there in front of you, and you want me to pretend like nothing ever happened? I'm at a loss for words, Mrs. Leedy. I'm sorry. You may be new here, but this isn't what being a Northwestern Warrior's all about. I can't keep silent on this one. Cheryl performs a slow clap for him. "Excellent performance, Mr. Ball. Now, will you delete the photo and get out of here?" "Why should I?" "Because I'm the principal and I said so." What gives you the right? I've had seniority. I've worked in this school since 1996. You've been here a few weeks," Buddy spits out. "I've been here long enough to know that woman was forced to marry her husband because she got pregnant in high school. Did you know that? Did you know that Mr. Parke, the man seen in the photo, is the person Meredith actually loves? Did you know, Mr. Buddy Ball, that every single person in this building knows that the 2 of them are together? We all see it. We all know they're having an affair, and we don't care. We sweep it under the rug because it's cute, and they're happy together, and it gives us something to gossip about, okay? The photo's sexy. The photo's honestly hot. Delete it. It'll only destroy a perfectly good thing, okay?" Buddy Ball decided to delete the photo and not get anyone fired in exchange for an extra week of vacation. Brent and Meredith kept up their affair for a few more years until Brent left the school to focus on being a landlord. He was later diagnosed with cancer, like other Northwestern local school teachers, Gwen Studebaker, Jerry Smith, Constance Bly, and Alicia Lee, who all lost their battles to cancer, and Debbie Korab, who fights on to this day. Meredith forced herself to refocus on her marriage, her family, and her career. She was forced by the district to teach language arts, which led her to be even more miserable. Hundreds of students remember the legend of Brent Parke and Meredith Greaser. It was never officially confirmed, but if you looked close enough, you could absolutely see it. They were totally fucking. End. That was the legend of Brent and Meredith. I'd like to take a quick moment of silence just to pay respect to the teachers that I mentioned, the human beings that died of cancer that taught at Northwestern. Alicia Lee, Constance Bly, Jerry Smith, and Gwen Studebaker. I always really wanted to write something about Mr. Parke and Mrs. Greaser. Everybody, I swear to God, everybody at Northwestern Middle School, when they taught there at the same time, thought they were in love. Now, their classrooms were right beside each other. I mean, the doors were separated by like some lockers, but they were right next to each other. And they would, in between classes, all the teachers would go out and stand in the hallways to make sure, what they do, what teachers do in the halls in between classes. And they would stand there side by side with their arms behind their back, talking to each other and laughing, smiling, giggling, like 100% like Jim and Pam on The Office. I swear to God. They would just literally be sitting there like smiling and blushing and giggling and just absolutely flirting. We all saw it. We all knew it. But but here's the thing. The reason that I, without a shred of doubt in my mind, believe that this really happened, not my story, what I wrote, but that Mr. Parke and Mrs. Greaser, to whatever extent, they at least had feelings for each other. Maybe there was never an affair full out, but they had feelings for each other. I won't accept any other reality. And there's a lot of stuff to that. My mom and my stepfather went to school with Mrs. Greaser and her husband at Northwestern when they were all younger and graduated around the same time. And there's just there's a lot of small town rumors that go around. But when we went to Washington, D.C. on the Washington, D.C. trip, Mr. Parke and Mrs. Greaser were on my bus, and they sat together, and I was nosy as fuck. And at one point during the trip, Mrs. Greaser was texting, and I swear to God, I'm not lying. She was texting her husband, and she said, "There is nothing to worry about between me and Coach." Now, Coach refers to Mr. fucking Parke because he coached, I'm pretty sure, baseball. Now, if that doesn't confirm a fucking something, that at least her husband also might have thought that there was something going on between her and Mr. Parke, that's enough for me to believe it for the rest of my life. Now, unfortunately, Mr. Parke doesn't teach at Northwestern anymore. He's a full-time realtor and, unfortunately, a full-time cancer patient, and I sincerely wish him the utmost best. But one thing I do have to correct is that Mrs. Greaser actually teaches social studies now. The story I wrote says language arts, but she actually is teaching social studies. When I was searching for images to make this video, I was trying to find her school photo on her school website, but didn't have it. But when I was there, that's when I found that she teaches social studies. Now, I gotta say, that woman was completely uninspired and one of the worst teachers I've ever had in my entire life. She was nothing more than a teacher that would give you a worksheet and a test at the end of the week, and she taught math, just like Mr. Parke, but both her and Mr. Parke both were completely uninspired teachers, in my opinion, but none more than Mrs. Greaser. Sorry, I mean, I know she's not listening, but hell, if she is, you can't fight me on that, Meredith. But now that she's teaching history, I mean, that's just completely bizarre to me. I could never imagine Meredith Greaser teaching me history. She always used to come into Fence Dairy, which is also mentioned in the story because I fucking worked there. It's literally right around the corner from the school. And they do sell pizza now. That was 2014 or so, but the story that I wrote, I wanted it to take place sometime when we were in high school, we meaning my class. Now, I graduated in 2013, and so that means we were in high school. So the story takes place sometime between 2009 and 2013 when Mr. Parke and Mrs. Greaser still taught at the school. I also really wanted to highlight some of the bizarre places and architecture in the building because that building doesn't exist anymore. But those rooms really did exist. We really did use desks and chairs and furniture from the deep storage room. I don't know what they referred to it as, but that's the only thing I could think of to refer to it as. And it really was connected to the library and all that. And I swear to God, it really did look out over onto that courtyard. I don't know why I'm defending myself as if you think I'm lying. Obviously I wrote the story as accurate as I could. But I also want to just send a quick shout out to my mom who sent me those photos of Mrs. Greaser and Mr. Parke from a photo album from Washington, D.C. that I had. So all of the photos, most of the photos that you see were either taken from my yearbook or their Facebook, or some photos that actually Mr. Cleland, another teacher, taught at Northwestern. They were photos that he took when we were in Washington, D.C. on that trip, and then put on Flickr, something like that, some photo sharing website. And then I convinced my father, who I no longer speak to, Dennis, I convinced him to buy me those photos, and he did. And now I still have them, and now you saw some of them. But let me just reiterate exactly how the story ended and what my firm belief is. There was something going on between Meredith Greaser and Mr. Parke, and I don't care who knows about it, and I will stand by it, and I'm glad to post it under the name Zach Roberts because I believe it firmly with every beat of my heart. They can deny it, but I know that they were in love. And listen, if you went to Northwestern and you know these people and you know what I'm talking about, you know it too.
Drink your prune juice, you old bat.